you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time.
Alrighty, good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, October the 29th, 2024 edition of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we thank you for tuning in. For those who are new and for those who are faithful listeners, you know the call-in number, but we will give it, 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or a comment, commonly referred to as VGQ, just press the number 1 button and wait until you're clued in, and then you can give a call person your name, and then they'll put you on hold, and you'll wait until I acknowledge you and go from there. If you are a first-time caller, be sure to say that you are a first-time caller, and we have something special for you to do with that so that you will be heard. You can also obtain the show by going to blogtalkradio.com to get into the chat room. That's blogtalkradio.com. You do that, and then you will hit the button where you want the programs, program menu. You hit that, and when the program menu comes up, there will be a list of shows, and the shows you want is the Produce Justice Show. Produce Justice Show. You get that, and then you're in. Or you can Gmail me at my Gmail address, which is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MrBobby @gmail.com. I will read it and then let you know basically when it will be read for the most part, or let you know, and then that way you can hear your Mr. Fuller's response to your question. You can do that. Okay, now the books that Mr. Fuller will be referencing today is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. He wrote that book, and you can get that book by going to producejustice.com. As a matter of fact, many of the questions and even his comments come from excerpts from that book, and some of the callers refer to some of the excerpts from that book in some of their questions and so forth. So you can do that. That's producejustice.com. Even if you don't purchase it for yourself, it'd be a good idea as a gift that you may purchase to gift somebody one, and they can get some information from there and how to combat racism, which is white supremacy. Okay, I think that is it for that part there. So let's get on with the program. First of all, let me say good morning to you, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay. Now, we have a segment on this program where we call the Thoughts and Expressions on the Mind of Neely Fuller Jr. And Mr. Fuller, today being Tuesday, the 29th of the month of October, 2024, what is on your mind you want to start off with?
Well, a number of things that are usually along the same vein. Looking at a statement right now made by actress Mae West. Mae West was a somewhat noted actress, white lady, in the movies many decades ago. And she said, You only live once, but once is enough if you do it right. And I was thinking about the word life itself, or live. People talking about living all the time. What should my life be like? People talking on their cell phones back and forth about, I don't like my life. And many people are saying, a lot of people are losing their minds because they just can't figure life out. Everything is so puzzling and so many things happening. So they just say that, well, the best thing I can do with what I'm looking at, the best way to handle it is just check out. So I'm seeing hearing a lot of talk, and reading a lot of material about mental health among both white people and black people. That people are having a lot of mental health problems. People are making contact more than ever. But the more contacts they make, the more confused or something, because that's what mental health is, getting rid of confusion. But people are becoming more confused with all the contacts that they make. People are in contact with other people more now than ever before in recorded history, because you have so many ways for one person to be in contact with another person. You used to have what you call letter writing, and people would sit and write a letter for 2 hours and to be in contact with someone whom they will be receiving a letter by what they call snail mail, all right, and then they will read the letter and they'll get around to responding by a letter the same way, and it will take maybe sometimes 2 or 3 weeks or 4 or 5 months, depending on how busy the person was, all like that. I got a letter from Cousin John, and I know Cousin John doesn't write you, but Cousin John writes me. And Cousin John told me to tell you or ask you or something this question, or he wants to make a comment about something that you all talked about the last time when you had access to a phone, and the conversation with one person and another person on a daily basis was somewhat similar to that. So within the context of what Mae West said, you only live once, but once is enough if you do it right. Do it. It what? Life. If you live, but then what is living right? So these are thoughts that people should have, because if you're having a mental health breakdown and it's because of your contacts, which is what most people, from what I'm hearing, in the field of mental health are saying, well, what's bothering you? And they say, well, I was having this conversation with so-and-so and so-and-so yesterday, and I had another conversation with so-and-so, and then another one with another person, and give that person's name, and you had contact with about 12 people yesterday, and now you have a mental health breakdown. Well, what does that say using logic? and thinking about you only live once. But once is enough if you do it right. You're not getting suicidal or anything, okay? So if it's on account of your contacts, stop having so many contacts. And what I've written about it years ago is that make every contact with another person. I don't care how you do it. Old-fashioned way, mail, but who writes letters anymore? But the cell phone, instant contact, then usually some type of conflict, even if it's just more you're disagreeing with someone about something, and they're disagreeing with you. And then the next person you talk to, which you're talking to about 20 people, now in a day's time, when you used to just talk to one about once a week. It seems like people are just tripling their troubles. They're not doing it right, as Mae West would say. And like someone named Mr. Albert Davis, I've read this in the Washington Informer newspaper here in Washington, D.C., a black newspaper, and he said, just go for it, that word it again. None of us know what we are doing either. Now, that was his statement when he was asked about life itself, generally speaking. All right, just go for it. None of us know what we're doing anyway. That's Mr. Albert Davis' opinion of life. And I thought that that was, in its own way, very profound. So just go for it. So you're looking around thinking about what everybody else is thinking and talking to people more than people ever talk to each other on the cell phone nonstop, and getting more and more miserable with each call. And Mr. Davis makes a suggestion, which is what the code is all about. Just go for it. Because all these people around you, these crowds of people that we love to bathe ourselves in, we love to be around crowds, baseball games, concerts. I mean, just get in the crowd and have the crowd tell us how to live our lives. I mean, but when we get in the crowd, it looks like people are just milling around and everybody's thinking the same thing. Why don't somebody do something to straighten my life out? Because my life is a mess. I mean, this crowd, why don't they show me the way? That's why I go and look for crowds. I'm driving myself crazy being alone. And see, as more people alone, the bigger the crowd is, the more alone people feel. That's has been said about so-called mental illness. So the code says, you got problems. Just sit down and quietly think about the origin of your problems. And it might lead to the conclusion that I came to. You got a race problem. It's driving everybody crazy, either directly or indirectly. So you talk to white people, you talk to black people about whatever problem that they are talking about, or whatever problem you have. Just talk about your problems, that's all. And then talk about the best way to go about solving them. But like Mr. Davis said, just go for it. Because all these people, thousands of them, that we like to bathe ourselves in, crowds of us, which is what we have become, They don't know what they're doing either. Mr. Davis is correct. Everybody is going crazier and crazier. Charles Manson said that. He said, everybody calls me crazy. Say, being crazy used to mean something. Say, now it don't mean nothing. Because everybody's crazy. Now, Charles Manson said that years ago when he was being interviewed while he was in prison. Say, being crazy used to mean something. Now it don't mean nothing because everybody's crazy. So just a thought.
Just a thought. Okay.
That's where my mind is this morning.
That is where your mind is. All righty. 516-453-9921 is the contact number. And let's start off with this Gmail here. There's been a lot of, I guess the last 2 weeks on the phone call that we received here from Mr. Joshua, and it's still going on here. And Ross Amin out in California had this question for you, Mr. Fuller. He says, Mr. Fuller, the original question that Joshua asked of you, Mr. Fuller, and all of us was the following. Do those people who use the term white supremacy ever travel outside of America? Because I have. In the quote, he went on to say that this is the best country, etc. Now, the question I have, questions from white folks, wait a minute, the questions from white people, such as this one Joshua asked, cause confusion. Mr. Fuller, in your experience, do questions and statements made by suspected white supremacists that cause confusion strengthen and refine the system of racism?
Statements made by white supremacists, because my mind doesn't work as well as it should, as usual.
He says, Mr. Fuller, in your experience and statements made by suspected white supremacists that cause confusion, strengthen and refine the system of racism?
Yes. Yes. The racists thrive off of what? When interacting with their victims. Confusion. In all 9 areas of activity. The white supremacists look at the economic situation of the whole world, because that's how they think. They always think on a world scale. And they say, well, what's the economic situation with black people and white people at this very moment? And then, if the person is a white supremacist, the person says, now what is economics? How people use their time and energy. It's not just money. Money is a vehicle of using people's time and energy. But all economics is how do you use your time and how do you use your energy? You were born with time. A baby in a crib has what? Time and energy. So that's basic economics. So the white supremacists looked at the entire world and say, I'm going to capture the time and the energy of every black person on this planet and make it work for me in all 9 areas of activity. In economics, how I use my time and energy and how everybody else does. In education, I'm going to take control of that. Education is all about time and energy. It's all about economics. Everything is connected. Entertainment, how black people entertain themselves. walking down the street, looking at everybody that they pass, saying, I know you don't like it, but I'm vaping. And I'm vaping to attract your attention along with injuring my health. But I'll injure my health just to have you not pass me by acting like I ain't even here. Because, see, black people are starved for attention. All people who feel weak are starved for attention. So we do almost anything to get it. Get what? Get attention. So that's entertainment, you might say. Then labor, law, how black people, where they work, how much work they do, what they're going to get paid for the work. Get in charge of that too. Law. If they come to court for anything, go through a whole lot of motions and then always have it come out that they lost more than they gained in what you call a court. That's how you handle it. I mean, and then in all other areas of activity, after law, politics, how they vote, what they vote for, what they get for, by voting, religion, get control of that. They begin to think about the hereafter and who controls everything and all like that. And we let them know directly, indirectly, well, there's a distant controller, but I am the upfront controller. So always listen to me. And if you can't find me, ask somebody who knows where I am and then come looking for me. And bring your children, too. All right, so I can tell them what to do, because none of you all know nothing when you're among yourselves, except how just moan and groan and talk about how things are, and then start fighting each other because you don't know what else to do. And then sex, of course, always have control of everything that black people do sexually. You know, tell them just don't have male and female, and they got 15 dozen other types of sex, and they need to really sit down and study each one of them and try to be as many of them as you possibly can. And that's how you should spend your time and energy, going back to economics. And then in war, I'll tell you who to fight, so don't worry about that. Mostly each other and how to go about doing it. And the way that I have you doing it is you'll love it. You'll only moan about it when you're getting killed.
Okay.
See, so that's basically what white supremacy is all about. Just control. And what do they get out of it? The three things that all people want: fun, glory, and material comfort.
And material comfort, yes. Okay. All right. All righty. Let's go to the phone line. See the number, 516-453-9921 is the contact number. And let's go to Tampa, Florida. And I think is it Delvon? Okay, let's see if we can get this over here. Okay, Delvon, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Good morning. What's your question?
Yeah, I want to say happy Tuesday to everybody out there that's studying the whole concept, because
hey, Delvon, we can't hear you. Can you speak up a little bit? Can't hear you.
Okay, all right.
Okay, yeah, that's better. That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say good morning to everybody out there and everybody that's on code. So the reason for my call is because the comment by Mr. Fuller talking about living in life, I looked it up in the word guide, and basically, you know, he says life, use this term to apply to any condition, situation, existence in which there is justice, correctness, and peace. And I just want to read that part, but then the suggestion says, since the word life has often been used in many different ways that have resulted in confusion, it may be best to use the word existence instead. So that's my addition to what Mr. Fuller was saying, because if we go about thinking that we're living and that we have life, it might lead to more confusion, which leads to mental disorder and mental confusion. So then I flip the page, because that was on 206, so I go to 209, and it has living. So it says, use this term to apply to complete absence of falsehood, non-justice, and incorrectness at all times, in all places, in all areas of activity. A person and or being does not and cannot live and is not making a living while dominated by, affected by the existence of falsehood, non-justice, and or incorrectness at any time, any place, any area of activity. So that, again, leads to the conclusion that Mr. Fuller came to, that I agree with, that if you think you have life and you think you live it and you subject to white supremacy, you are confused and you have a mental problem. And that's my VGQ.
Okay. All right, Delvin, thank you for your VGQ. All right, before I go to break here, let me say this. Somebody sent me a thing about greetings, in particular about saying good morning. Some say grand rising, all different types of things. And I looked, researched that good morning, and there was some truth to the information that this person was giving me about good morning in the slave day, how the used to beat and kill slaves and carrying on, and the slave master would come by and say good morning to that, mocking the death of slaves. So that's how they came up with that term good morning. But you have to understand that morning was mourning the death of somebody, good morning. But when people say good morning, and there's a difference in the spelling of it, morning, that's not the same thing as mourning over somebody. It's not the same thing. But if you choose to use that term, that's okay. That's on you. You say what you say, okay. But give other people an opportunity to say what they say. And if you're going to pass on information like that, be sure you research that and say, it's okay. It's okay either way. Either way, if a person wants to do that, then okay. And you may have some knowledge. We take it in, but you research whatever knowledge you get and then formulate your own opinion and then, go from there. Anyway, let's break it off. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we thank you for listening. The contact number to get in contact with this show is 516-453-9921. That's the number. And you can give your VGQ, as Delvin just did, or a question or comment that you would like Mr. Fuller to answer. And if you're a first-time caller, be sure to tell the call person that so that I can get you on with your proper name, and we can go from there. You can also Gmail me if you'd like, and I would read your question. My Gmail address is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. I will do that. Or you can join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says programs. Yeah, get the program menu. And under the program, you want to stop it where it says the list of shows. And the show that you want is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that, and the chat room is available for you to get in there, and you can do your thing in the chat room. Thank you, Swa. Good to have you on in the chat room. All righty. Excuse me. And, got to say this. The book that is referenced on this show is the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept that you can get by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. Get that book. Have it as a reference, a guide. It's a book of suggestions on how to deal with racism, which is white supremacy. There are going to be some things in there that you like. There are going to be some things in there that you don't like, or maybe some things that you don't understand. But get the book and read it and get understanding, about whatever it is. Ask questions. And you can call this show, and Mr. Fuller will be happy to answer your questions or give you directions on suggestions that he has written in that book. But you can get that by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. All righty, let's go to Milwaukee. And that's going to be Corey with questions. Corey, and thank you for all the callers online. Yeah, you are. You're doing good. Okay, Corey, let me see if I can get this over there. And you're on, Corey, with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Greetings, Mr. Bobby. Greetings, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Fuller. I wanted to quickly read something from the 2016 edition of the United Independent Compensatory Code book.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Under the area of politics, page 233, Mr. Fuller, you say this: if you believe that a particular white person is a racist white supremacist, always expect that he or she has the ability to deceive many non-white people and the ability to be deceptive in a manner that is skilled and greatly effective. Expect him or her to pretend to be any kind of person other than a deceiver and other than a racist white supremacist. And then you say, expect him or her to pretend that she is so-called conservative, liberal, socialist, Christian, Jew, Muslim, left-winger, lover, pacifist, etc. My question is, Mr. Fuller, the most recent, I would say, indirectly violent, verbally violent, and racist interactions I have had have been with white men who are self-labeled as liberal Democrat. How does a non-white person, through questions, determine if the white person that they're interacting with is not one of these labels, but is really a refined white supremacist? What are some of the questions that you suggest, Mr. Fuller?
You ask them, do they believe in justice? There's all kinds of, hundreds of questions you can ask anybody. Of course, you're just searching for the truth. So, for one thing, like on page 171, 172, just an example, and it has to do with wants. See, when you're talking to people, the best way to have a conversation with anybody, Neely Fuller, a white person or black person, or male or female or whomever, is to ask questions, and the main questions to ask, starting off, is what? About wants. Everybody wants something. Every creature wants something. Alligators want something every minute of every day. Babies want something. That's why they cry out. They want something. It's something that the baby wants. Sometimes the baby just wants attention, wants someone to come and pick me up and turn me over. But don't pick me up and throw me up in the air and start playing with me. That's not what I want. I just want to be turned over because I can't turn over by myself. So somebody's got to figure that out, or the baby will keep doing what? Crying. Keep getting your attention. Now, people are the same way. They don't change that way. We don't change from being babies, I mean, in that fundamental way. So it has wants, W-A-N-T-S. So when you ask a person, what do you want? And in answer to the question that's being asked me right now, when you're talking to white people, just find out what they want and what they don't want. And you do that just by asking questions. Stay out of the trying to help them with the answer lane. Don't do that. Don't ask the question and then say, I think I know what you want. You say, well, look, Jackson, I think I know what you want. Mm-hmm. I'm asking you, what do you want? But I think I know what you want. See, don't do that. If you already know why I ask. All right? See, so just ask and wait for the answer and then have another question ready. Don't make any comment on the answers that you get. Because most likely that will lead to an argument. You're not looking for an argument. You're looking for clarification. Mm-hmm. So you just start off. What do you want, Jackson? Seems like you're agitated about a lot of things. A lot of things displease you. So what do you want? Or it might be something that the person wants you to do. Mm-hmm. All right? Or you can ask them, what do you want to do? Or what do you want me to do? And then wait for the answer, and then be ready with the next question.
Yes, sir.
Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do what it is you say you want to do? Mm-hmm. And then number 3, how do you plan to do it? If you want to do it, and it's you that wants to do whatever it is you want to do, what is your plan? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like I say, don't help them with the answer.
Correct.
People automatically try to do that. Mm-hmm. Or they do it without thinking. It's sort of like a reflex. I almost slip up and do it every now and then. And I try to concentrate. And then the 4th question, what do you expect the constructive result to be if you do what you want to do? Mm-hmm. Okay? What do you expect the constructive result to be? And just sit back and wait on the answer. That's the best way to have a conversation. I'm saying I walked through that slowly, I hope.
Yes, you did. Yes. Okay.
But I'm handling those 4 questions because they'll work in any situation better than any other exchange of views when people are having what you call a conversation. You will get more out of those questions and those answers than you will out of any other approach that you take to any conversation about anything, because it has to do with wants.
It has to do with wants.
And people are always willing to talk about what they want.
Exactly. All right. Corey, thank you for your question. Mr. Fuller, and one of the questions that came up in group was this question here. You're an avid reader as much as you can be of the news that goes on, not only in your location, but all across this concept. Now, were you aware, or are you aware of the comments that Jimmy Swaggart's son, Donnie, made concerning the election that has a lot of people up in a lot of discussion going on. Have you heard anything or read anything about that? And if you have, now maybe I'm wrong for this. I know I'm aware that he said what he said. I know that's there. But are you aware of those comments that he made about the vote and Kamala Harris and all that kind of stuff, and black people in particular?
No.
Okay. Please have your staff become aware of that, because a lot of people really want to know what you think about that. So please, somebody get that, have your staff or somebody get that information to you, or maybe somebody, one of the callers can help us out, today. I have the article right in front of me, but I'm not going to read it. But some of the things that he said, and we can get some comment on that. So please have one of your staff members or somebody make sure that you get that, and we can go on. Be very interesting discussion about what he said, and then we can have a discussion on that.
The person's name is what?
Donnie Swaggart, the son of Jimmy Swaggart.
The son of Jimmy Swaggart.
Yeah, what he said concerning the election, Kamala Harris, black people, and everything. Yeah, pastor down in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and what he said. Anyway, yeah, and anybody else that's listening can have a comment on that too. Be very interesting. All right, let's go to my brother up in that's Youngstown, Ohio, where I understand a lot of construction is going on. There's particularly since the steel industry has gone and they're rediscovering themselves. Brother to the left. Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Top of the morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Yeah, they're trying to make the area good looking and inviting people. But yeah, I heard the comment about what the Swagger guy said, but somebody sent it to me, but I don't get so much into that stuff because it's just all nonsense to me. But one real quick thing, Mr. Bobby. You ever heard that song? I think the name of the group is called The Clash. I Fought the Law and the Law Won.
Yeah.
Well, there's a guy that, this is kind of a funny, but I guess, it goes along with what Mr. Fuller says, but this guy, he identifies himself with, I guess, a Caucasian, and he works for me, but I haven't seen him in a long time. So yesterday he called me, and I had him install a water heater for one of my customers. So I asked him a question, Mr. Fuller. Where have you been? Well, his answer was, Mr. Bobby, I fought the law and the law won. So I thought that was kind of fun. I know Mr. Fuller always speaks to how that works, but I do have a question, but I do want to say this. I know, Mr. Fuller, you always talk about people being healthy. I noticed during the so-called pandemic, I traveled a lot, California, Oregon, Puerto Rico, but I was traveling mainly for my own business. But I noticed you walk into the stores, all the toilet paper and the hand sanitizer was gone, but the fruit section, the vegetable section was still full. I couldn't understand that when those are supposed to be the things that help with your body, but I just thought I'd mention that. But my question is, Mr. Fuller, is that I may have sent it to you, Mr. Bobby. You know the Amish. Are you familiar with the Amish? Okay. Yeah. In Lancaster, PA, I was up in the area, and some of them are voting for Donald Trump. And Mr. Fuller, there are people that normally stick to themselves. So I would assume that that's a part of the confusion that you always talk about with white supremacy. Here's a group of people that's been doing their own thing for years, and I noticed some of them were saying we're going to vote for Donald Trump. I don't know if it was the economy. I didn't get a chance to speak to him. But Mr. Fuller, why would you think that were the people that stick to themselves will all of a sudden be voting for Donald Trump? Now, I'm not asking you to speak for them, but as part of the code, what would you think would change that with them? And that was my question. I had something else to talk about today, but I'm going to ask you that question, Mr. Fuller. I think I understand why, but maybe other people don't know because they don't travel like I do. Why would a group of Amish say, you know what, we want to vote for Donald Trump, Mr. Fuller? That's the question I got for you today.
Well, that would be the best question to ask, but I have to say it. That according to the code, I would have to talk to the person who says, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. That's any person, regardless of what label they have, or why they're going to do anything that they're doing. I would ask, getting back to those 4 wants again, who do you want to vote for? All right. Who do you want to vote for? You might be forced by somebody older than you, that has authority over you, to vote a certain way. In a lot of places throughout the world they do. But I would say, who do you want to vote for? Why do you want to vote for them? How do you plan to vote for them if you have a plan? And that will be probably easy to do. They can answer that question real easy. Well, I just go to the polls and vote. Okay, well, that's the answer. And then number 4, what do you expect the constructive result to be if you vote for Donald Trump? That's those 4 wants again. It'll always work. See, that's what the code is. That's why I say we need a code. Ask, you have to, see, you're correct when you say, you can ask me that, what I think, but I'm saying what I think, that you definitely have to ask somebody who is, if they say identify themselves as Amish, or as just a person, because that's the basic codified approach. I'm just asking a person, regardless of whom that person is, the same questions, in the spirit of what you might call equality, whether you're Amish, whether you're Mormon, whether you're a Coptic Christian, whether you're a Jehovah's Witness, whether you are just a Christian in general, or whether you're a Muslim, or a Jew, or any people who have what is commonly called a religious label, or a non-religious label. I'm a non-believer. So you ask, well, you're not, as a non-believer, whatever that is, why are you voting for Donald Trump? Why are you voting for Kamala Harris? Why are you voting? And just wait for the answers. It just never fails. But it's all right to ask me what I think about what they're thinking, but I'll have to just say that I'm thinking what they're thinking. They got a reason. But the best source for getting answers to what a person is doing, why they're doing it, and all like that, is the person themselves. You just ask. And don't squabble about the answers. That's very important. Because now you're going to get an argument. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for information. Because information, like Dr. Kathy Hughes says of Radio 1, is power. She says that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Power. Mm-hmm.
Power. You want power, you need information.
You need information, yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tillis. Up in the yo. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. All righty. Let's see here. Man, because my computer screen's a little different, so I may have some problem with it. Okay, the person in the 832, hey, give the call person your name. In the meantime, we're going to go to Dollar Bill, New York. Dollar Bill, gotcha. Go ahead, please, sir.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Oh my goodness.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay. Good morning. Hold on, I'm gonna change it again. Hold Good morning, Miss Bobby, Miss Fuller. How are you
Better,
this morning?
much better, much better.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I took off those headphones and stuff like that, called in, and put it right onto the phone. Make it quick because I know you're running for time. Okay, I'm gonna change my question because I had something from the book today on politics on marriage, and you made a lot of statements on marriage regarding how it only supports the system of white supremacy in your original book on page 140. If you have time, maybe you can talk about marriage and do you really support it, and give us your feelings if you would update anything on it. But my question is regarding, because a new question just came into my head regarding the election. And I would like to get your feelings on, since you state that the white supremacists play all sides of the coin, then should we really, we've been voting, especially blacks have been voting Democratic. But it seems to be that they have not been doing anything for us to make our lives better. We're still getting murdered under the Democrats. We're still getting just really overlooked over the Democrats. Now, maybe the racists, people say that the Republicans are racist, but they are, we know how they are. The Democrats are coming to us and saying, oh, we care for you. You can't do it without us. If you're not black if you don't vote for us. We've been with this party for 50 years now, especially. And so I'm asking you, Ms. Fuller, if the same results are happening for us over and over, voting for this party, why should we vote? Like you said, ask, why should we vote? So I would like to know your feelings. Should we expect something different if we don't vote versus voting?
There are always nuances. So that's basically what you're doing. You're voting for the best nuances at the time, like a roll of the dice. Because we're not under the Republicans or the Democrats or the independents, whatever that means. We're under the system of white supremacy, regardless of what we do. The system of white supremacy is a prison system, and every black person on planet Earth in 2024 is in that prison. Now, that statement is either true or false. So I'm not subject to any so-called Democrat. I don't even know what that is, or Republican. I have no idea of what a Republican is. I have asked questions about it. What's a Republican? What's a Democrat? I'm familiar with one system of government, and it has never changed. It's changed the style, but I have been a prisoner of war of one government since before I was born. And the name of that government is the system of white supremacy. I've never, ever, for 1 minute, been an American or under an American system of government. Not for one fraction of a second. It doesn't exist, for one thing. So the people who say that, I don't like the American way of doing things, make America great again, and people get in squabbles going back and forth. America never was great. America never did nothing for me. And then the other person says, well, I don't see you going nowhere else. And then they're going round and round. America never existed. It's one thing. Just one. Just one. Just one. Just one. In capital letters, neon lights, any way you want to phrase it. And that is, according to the code, the system of white supremacy, and there is nothing else when you talk about government. Now, that's what you start with right out the gate. And then you look around the room and say, anybody got any questions? Because that's what I'm saying. Because that's what I do say on this program, and I'll say it anywhere in the world that I go, any minute of any day, because that is what, as far as I can see, the truth. They say, well, you got the British Parliament and all that. Hey, I don't know nothing about that. The system of white supremacy is the only government I have never, ever known. Everybody else is trying to be a government. According to what? Logic. Not
according to logic,
Neely Fuller. And according to the evidence. So like I said, when people say Democrat or Republican, I don't know what they're talking about. And I'll ask questions. See, when people are talking, I'm going to ask questions. What's a Democrat? What exactly is a Democrat? And what exactly is a Republican? And what exactly is an independent? Independent of what? Democrat? What's that? What does a Democrat do on a Thursday morning or Tuesday morning, like this is Tuesday morning in the Northwestern Hemisphere? What does a Democrat do today that nobody else does? What does a Republican do or say or whatever? Does a Republican drive a car? What does a Democrat do? See, it comes down to the doing part. Now, that's a Democrat. Now, Democrats don't do this. Democrats don't run red lights. Now, that's being specific, because that's what you're looking for. What does a Democrat do that a Republican doesn't do? It's the same when you talk about religion. What does a Mormon do that a Episcopalian doesn't do?
Okay.
And then wait for the answer.
Wait for the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dollar Bill, I hope that clarifies your question here. Let me see here. Excuse me. Does that satisfy your answer, Dollar Bill?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Mr. Fuller. Good answer. Thank you for that.
All righty. All right. Thank you, Dollar. We'll get you next week. All righty. Let's do this. Well, we have just about come to the end of the first hour of the program, and we thank you for that. So, Mr. Fuller, before we end this first hour, which we have a few seconds to go, what would you like to say before we close this first hour out?
Well, I'll say what Confucius said, and it keeps sticking in my mind. Life is simple. Men make it complicated.
All righty. Life is simple.
I want people to think about that. That didn't come from Neely Fuller. That came from Confucius. All right. So somebody said. All right.
Okay.
Life is simple. Men make it complicated.
Okay. All righty. Coming up next on the other side, we got Ray from Dallas. Looks like Philip from D.C., Cleo from Houston, all that and more coming up. So that takes care of the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. We thank you for listening. And if you have to go, you got to go. But hopefully something was said that was inspirational and that you will be back for it next week. Forgive us and forgive me for any mistakes that may have been made, and we hope to do better the next time. So you have a good week. But for those who will be with us for the second hour, stick and stay. Don't go away. We'll be back in 5 seconds. All righty. Welcome back to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and thank you for the privilege and thank Mr. Fuller for the privilege to have me to be able to do this, and thank you for tuning in and listening to the program. Now, here is the number that you can call to be a part of today's show if you'd like. 516-453-9921. Press that number 1 button if you have a question or comment, and then go on from there. Make sure you give the call person your name. If you're a first-time caller, and we do have those a lot of times because we have a lot of people on the line today. First-time caller, when you call in, and this is your first time, you don't have to be scared. Give the call screener your name so that I can get that, and then we have a special plan set up for you. You can call in at any time, and we'll make sure that you are heard. Now, if you don't want to do that, anyone can do this. You can write me at my email address, which is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. I will get it and read it, as I think I read 2 today, and when the time is permits, we will do that. And lastly, you can join the chat room. And all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. And when you get that, you want to click on where it says programs. And the program that you want is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that, and then the icon for the chat room is to the right. You get on that, and then you are in the chat room. And occasionally I will take something from the chat room, maybe formulate my own question to ask Mr. Fuller, and we can go from there and have Mr. Fuller make a comment on that. As you have heard in the first hour, if you were with us, many people refer to the book, the old book, the 1984 edition of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and some even referred to the 2016 edition. All the volumes are available at producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And you can get that book and open it up at any point and find something that is maybe relevant to your situation as a prisoner of war, as a global prisoner of war that we're in, to help you combat racism, which is white supremacy. And you can get that by going to producejustice.com, producejustice.com. Then, of course, you can call into the show for clarification on things that you may not understand, and you know that number, which, again, is 516-453-9921. Okay, let's proceed on to the show and go down to Dallas, and we have Ray here. Ray, let me get you in here. See here, move right over here. Okay, Ray, you're on.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bobby, please leave me on the line, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Fulk, thank you. Times that the code is, how should I put it? Do you think at times that the code is too simple and it may go over the heads of non-white people?
Yes.
Why is that?
Like Confucius said, life is simple. Men make it complicated. I actually, in writing the code, I compared my 2016 edition with my 1984 edition, and I did that in my writing. I made what and this is my own evaluation. In 1984, my writing was more simplistic. I always tell people I should have tried to write at the 5th grade level. It would have been much simpler. I look at things in the 1984 edition and say, I could have made what I said, I could have made it a whole lot simpler if I'd done this and done that. And it was even worse many decades later when I called myself updating it. I made it more complicated in my writing. People have a tendency to use all of the words that they know. That's just the way it affected me, words. the more words I know, more words I am tempted to use. I mean, it's a what they call a quote unquote subconscious thing. So I could have done a whole lot better. In fact, I always say that my books, all of them, are the worst counter-racist guides. Well, I always say it's one book, really. The book, the code book I call it, is one of the worst, one of the best of the worst counter-racist guides ever produced. One of the best, or rather, I get mixed up myself even now, making things more complicated. One of the best of the worst counter-racist guides ever produced. And I'm talking about my own book. But I was doing the best that I could under the pressure that I had on me. It's a self-published book. That's why I don't sell many of them. And, you know, I'm nowhere near, you might call a bookseller. I'm not even in the running as far as the number of books sold of mine in all the years I've been out here. I'm not on anybody's bestseller list, but people have picked up bits and pieces of what I have written and ran with it, which is okay as long as the bits and pieces give their source. Otherwise, I have what? Confusion. And I don't want to make any more confusion that's already out here. So that's another thing. Mm-hmm. Like if I say something that Confucius said, I'm going to say Confucius said it. So if you got a bone to pick it with Confucius. Don't take it up with me. I'm just repeating what he said. All right? And everybody should do that so that you don't have confusion. Because when you got confusion, that lends itself to what? Conflict. And we don't need no more conflict of any kind.
No, not at all. Okay. All righty. Okay, right. We're going to leave you on the line as you suggested. And let's go into D.C. in the 202. Philip, let me see if I can get you in here. Okay, wait a minute, Philip. Right over here. And Philip, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Good morning. What is your question?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Yes, sir.
I'm mainly calling to make a comment regarding the whole thing about.
You have to speak up, Philip. We can't hear you, sir.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we hear you better now. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the thing about the United, the logic about the United States being a concept, and I wanted to note that on YouTube there is a video under the Associated Press channel and many other news channels when President Joe Biden was announcing his that he was dropping out of the race. Around the 7-minute 30-second, between the 7-minute 30-second mark and the 8-minute 30-second mark, he actually said exactly that. He said, America is an idea based on ideals that we haven't lived up to, but have not abandoned. And then he starts going on about the ideals. So I just wanted to say that, our current president also says that the America is an idea or a concept. So I just wanted to put that out there. And you can find that on YouTube under the Associated Press channel for his Oval Office speech where he was dropping out of the presidential election, and I think it's dated July the 24th, 2024. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
And also continue to listen. That'd be great.
Okay, under VGQ. Okay, Philip from DC. Okay, let's go to Houston, and that's going to be Cleo. Let's see here, Cleo. Let's do it. Okay, Cleo, you're on. Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Long live NFJ and forever live Logic. Got two quick VGQs this morning, Mr. Bobby. I want to thank you and all of our Counter Racist Code Show team members who have partnered with Mr. NFJ in his very important life work. My first VGQ is just to simply say happy breath day in the 95th year of life for Mr. NFJ. I didn't want to let the month of October go by without recognizing his life, his legacy of having been born October 6, 1929, and having been blessed with 95 years of life for which he is using it. And I want to thank you, Mr. Fuller, for using it to solve problems and produce justice and to tackle this greatest problem ailing persons in the known universe of racism, white supremacy. My second VGQ this morning, Mr. Bobby, is just to ask everyone to join me in the process of trying to solve this problem by using a code to see if this code works relative to discontinuing our identification with the racial classification system. It is my personal belief that it is our answering to and identifying with the racial classification system of racially classified black, racially classified white, racially classified non-white, and anything else that strengthens the system of white supremacy rather than weakening it. And I understand that Mr. NFJ may be of the logical thought that it is what the white supremacist classifies you or calls you, but I say it is not what you are called, it is what you answer to. And so is it possible that with a code, Mr. Bobby, whereby we stop signing that we are of African American or black and this type of thing, and just say that we're persons. We are persons. We are beings trying to be human beings as we seek to interact humanely with each other. We are simply persons, right? And we take away the power of white supremacy in some form. I don't know to what degree, but it's a code worth trying. And my VGQ, Mr. Bobby, this morning is that every person under the sound of my voice listening on this broadcast today will spread this and will begin to utilize it themselves, and then maybe we can report back out on this show as to how that seems to be affecting our power relationships when we're engaging in this concept of the world of racism, white supremacy. Thank you, Mr. Bobby, and as always, I'm so appreciative for you and the Counter Racist Code Show team. Thank you.
All righty. VGQ from Cleo from Houston, or as Mr. Fuller would say, he said what he said. All right, let's go to AP. Wait, let me see the chart. I got to keep the time going here. AP, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Hello, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. Interesting that I'm going to follow up after the previous caller made his VGQ. I want to focus on just in particularly the last couple of shows because, again, Joshua's name came up as a question, and I called. The first question I'd like to ask you real quickly, and I'd like to stay on the line, is you hooked up last week the interaction between Joshua and myself, but it wasn't direct. Correct, Mr. Bobby?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to clear up any confusion that may have been produced by anything that I did. The call out wasn't, as I stated in the program, wasn't directed towards him, but it's a question in particular for white people. Because as far as most of us know, and even Mr. Fuller said it, he was the first white person to call the show. And my call out for him was, and I wanted him to identify himself as such, and he did not do that. And so part of it was for me to try to clear up and not assume anything about his identity as to who he was to hopefully ask him to identify who he was. And when white people do call the show, are they about the business of producing justice and getting a constructive result? That is the reason why I had that call out, Mr. Bobby, that you did what you did to clarify that and to ask Joshua that. He did not answer that question, so that's still up in the air, and I'm not going to make any assumption, but he sounded like he was probably a white person. Now, my second question is, Mr. Fuller, did you hear the comments from Donald Trump recently calling the United States a dumping ground and a trash state right now? Because this reminds me of a January 17th, 2017 show that you did where you talked about immigrants and the name used by many people, Jesus. And Mr. Bobby or Mr. Fuller, in that engagement that happened last week between Mr. Joshua and myself, was that codified? Thank you, and I'll listen, and I'll stay on the line also.
All right, Mr. Fuller.
Well, what part are you talking about? Was it codified? See, I don't know what there was. Quite a few things were said. So I want to know what part of what was said that the code applies, where the code would apply. If you can specify what was said, and if I understand the question, what was said in that exchange do you think was or was not codified? Because, quite a few things were said, but I don't remember the details.
Okay, correct. I was surprised because I listened to the program, and I try to do a lot of listening. I could call in the show a lot more than I do, but I have been spending more time listening. You surprised me, Mr. Bobby, in that you were able to get a conversation that I definitely wasn't in directly had the ability to question Joshua in any manner. So I was surprised at how you went about making that interaction possible. Am I first correct on that? You did that on your own, and you did it in the manner that you did. Is that correct, Mr. Bobby?
That would be correct.
Okay, so the specifics is that you called Joshua because I had a call out or a question about who Joshua was, and really to get more clarity into why he called and the manner in which he called. And it, to me, feeds into a whole lot of what goes on in the area of politics and the interaction with the manner in which the usual suspects or a suspected white supremacist or white person who calls in and do what they do on a very weak, very vague manner, and they don't get to the root of what's necessary to produce justice and get a constructive result to get rid of what we have in the form of racism, white supremacy today. So Joshua called in, but he didn't identify himself. He went on the discussion of, well, I'm not a Democrat or Republican, and that I understand. We talk about that because when we get in the state of where we have to feel that voting, where our voting is the choice of between, the lesser of two evils, is kind of ludicrous, and it's not constructive. It's not going to do what needs to be done to root out racism, white supremacy. So, you understand what I'm saying? So the specifics,
I understand what you're saying.
Did we do? Was it codified in the manner in which what I did, what Joshua did, and you did, Mr. Bobby, codified, in your opinion?
That's what you're asking, Mr. Fuller. Was it codified? That specific area. Okay, Mr. Fuller, the exchange that happened.
Well, it was codified if you say that it's codified. See, Neely Fuller has just laid out a format for a code. The code is whatever you do that works for what you are trying to get done, as long as it produces what? Constructive results.
Right.
That's the only measure. Not what Neely Fuller says or Mr. Bobby or anybody. Does it produce a constructive result? That's the question. That's the codified question. And if the exchange of views produces a constructive result, that's automatically code, because the compensatory counter-racist code is all about, that's ALL, all about producing constructive results in any interaction between people, or any interaction between people and or creatures and or things, as long as the result of the interaction is constructive. Underline, constructive. That's the key. So that's the question. Did the exchange of views produce a constructive result to the person who sought the information, meaning yourself, sir?
There you go. Now you can ask him that again, Mr. Fuller. Did the exchange give him a constructive result? Is that what you're asking, AP?
Yeah. Did the exchange of views about Mr. Joshua or whomever or whatnot, I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
I remember something vaguely about the conversation. But did that exchange of views produce in his mind the constructive result?
Well, I didn't get a chance to ask Joshua that directly, and that's part of what I am speaking to right now. But I was satisfied because I followed the format of the codified manner in which you speak of to at least address it. All I would like to do in asking... I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
What I would like to do is make just a suggestion to and welcome, and hopefully white people will not be afraid to call in the show, call in to produce a constructive result and produce justice, which is something that we need to do. When they do not, sitting on the sideline and saying that I'm not like that, I don't do this and I don't do that, or be weak about, in my opinion. Now, Joshua can correct me if I'm wrong, to not just talk about, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I'm not like this, I'm not like that. Are you about the business of, and this is for all white people or anybody of any so-called race or ethnic group, are you about the business of producing justice and getting constructive results? That's the main question for everybody out there. But since white people we are in the system of racism, white supremacy, and they're in the power position, are they really about trying to produce that? And just like the question that earlier caller spoke about Amish people or anybody else who may be voting for and want to vote for Donald Trump, they have that right, just like anybody who may want to vote for Kamala Harris may have a right to do so. And we're in that season. We're at the finish line almost right now. One more week to go before the so-called this most important political decision of who we're going to vote for the United States presidency is at hand. And either way it goes, because if Donald Trump gets in there again and he does what it seems like the 2025 project will push out and produce, then this country is going to see more of what we've been seeing in the case of hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, earthquakes, fires, etc.
Okay, etc. Okay.
We'll see what happens, okay? Thank you, and that's my BGQ, and thank you for your answer, Mr.
Alrighty. Thank you, AP. AP had mentioned Agenda Project 2025, but don't let this slip either. Look at the Agenda 47. Agenda 47. Look at those two, and look what's already lined up. Oh, yeah, it's already lined up. It's already lined up. All right, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a little break now. So you are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we do thank you. Now, to get in contact with the show, let me give you the contact number. Yeah, it's 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button if you have a question or comment, and we'll get you on to do that. First-time callers, make sure that you give them your name so that I can give you a proper introduction. You can also get on the Gmail. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You click on where it says programs. Yeah, get the program menu, and then the program that you want is the Produce Justice Show, because a list of shows will come up, and you get that. And then you click on that, and then you are in the chat room. Okay, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com, and I will get your Gmail and stack it up with the rest of them, and then read it at a time when the show volume is not so heavy. I tell you, Mr. Joshua started something, but you know what? That's good, because we can develop a dialogue, and that's good, and get some clarity on it, because that's the one thing that we do not want is confusion. Oh, yeah. Don't be scared. Call in. The book. Oh, yeah. While you're doing that, make sure that you have a copy of the book, which is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. I used to hear something, Mr. Fuller, a long time ago. I don't know where I heard it from, but I had this little book of quotes, and he had all these different quotes. But one of the quotes that was in the book that I found to be accurate, and I don't know who wrote this, but it was said that, here's the quote: if you want to keep something from a black person, put it between the pages of a book. I don't know who wrote that, but that seems to be true. Have you seen that, Mr. Fuller, or heard that before?
Many decades ago, over and over again. If you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. Because that's one thing that black person was going to look at and say, I don't want to go nowhere close to that book. That's the last thing I want to look at is a book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the kind of reputation we have when it comes to books. Black people have that reputation. Oh, no, I mean, don't show me anything. Show me a pair of dice. Don't show me no book. I don't care what kind of book it is. A book, that's the last thing I want to ever see is a book.
It's a book.
I mean, black people and books don't go together.
Yeah, it just seems that way. And now with with everything being on social media and so forth, or audio books, it just seems like reading is. I don't know about that. Anyway, let me go.
Well, what is a book? A book is just something. In fact, a library, they could have a motto saying, everything you ever want to know.
Yeah.
That you pass by this library, but all the problems that you're walking while you're walking, I tell people this. I said, you walk right past a library, and you're talking about the thousands of problems that you have. I said, you just walk past the answer to your problems right there, in that place that you walk past all the time. I said, if that's a well-stocked library, the answers to your problems are somewhere in one of them aisles in a thing called a book, is the answer to your problem that you've been talking about for the last 15 or 20 years. You walk right past it every day. And don't give it no thought. Oh, ain't nothing in there but a bunch of books. I got to have me some money.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of books in there that tell you exactly how to make money.
How to make money.
Yeah, in fact, there are books in there that have that title, most likely, if it's a well-stocked library.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, see, I know something from experience, and that is when I walk into a library, and it's real quiet, and I walk up and down those aisles, most of the time I walk out without anything. And the reason for why, I'm so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
With information.
I
mean, that will tell me, if I just pick up one of them, and I do, when I walk through a library, I'll just pick up a book and start reading. I say, I didn't know that. Almost every time. I'll see something. Pick up a National Geographic. That's got a lot of pictures in it.
A lot of pictures.
You know, I'm not advertising magazines or nothing like that. But I'm just saying, walk past a National Geographic, or when you're in line at the grocery store and it's a long line, and you just pick it up and look through it, stuff jumps out at you that you didn't know before.
It certainly does.
It jumps out at you.
It jumps out at you.
Right. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
You know.
Yeah. If you don't believe it, try it.
Excuse me, you and I, Mr. Fuller, come from I'll put it this way. I come from an era, just say televisions, for example. You want a television, you would go some store and you get a television, and you come home and you plug it in. And that was about it. You know, and there was a little thing. But yesterday, my son-in-law came over and, I had a TV put in, and I was noticing that, everything is so technical. And he pulled out a code book that came with the television to tell him or to show him, or us, really him, how to program that TV. It was a code book, and I brought that up because it reminded me of your book, a code book, which I've heard you refer to, and a lot of other people refer to it as a code book. And I've heard you mention about we must follow a code. And he followed the code that was for the setup of the TV, the brackets and so forth. It wasn't in my ear where you just plug it in. There were things that you had to do in order to get the TV to function, properly, and different things, and passwords and all this. Things have changed, but I'm reminded, like I said, of your book being a code book to instruct you on things that you may not know. or the television came with all different kind of nuts and bolts and what goes where and all this kind of stuff. That is the importance of a code book. That is what is important about your book, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. You didn't tell me to push this book, but this is what this about. It's about code. You need to have a code to know what to do and what not to do. So I appreciate that, and maybe somebody could pass that on. How important, a code, having a code is. Okay, let's go to the Gmail here. And by the way, the person in the 929, make sure you give the call person your name so that I can get you on the screen here. Okay. Okay, see, Mr. Fuller, this comes from John, says, Mr. Fuller, we appreciate all the work you have done with this era of time. Your podcast has been helpful for a decade or more. However, some of the premises, and he quotes logical reasoning, may be off and subject to affecting code work. Your thoughts on evolution. Number one, only the female can breastfeed ever, never the male in any species. Now, you were supposed to have said this December the 20th, 2022. There were three things here. Do you remember that, Mr. Fuller? Only the female can breastfeed ever, never the male in any species.
I don't remember saying that, but I might have.
Okay. All right.
But as far as I know, that's a part of the female anatomy, generally speaking. Now, there might be some what you call aberrations, or because there are in everything. In the weather, there are so-called phenomena that happen every now and then, and nobody really knows why. They'll say, the people who are supposed to be experts on weather will say they don't know. They'll say, well, every now and then this will happen.
Okay.
I mean, it'll start snowing in July in the Sahara Desert. Okay. But we haven't figured out why. But there's a reason. And 10 years, 15 years down the road, they might give the reason. We figured out how that happens. Snowing in the Sahara in July. All right?
Okay.
It happens once every 800 years. But we don't know why. But we found out why last Wednesday.
Okay. All righty. And then the second one was this. He says that hybrid creatures are a fact of nature, which is the universe. The insects and worms we see are intelligent life forms and may be present on other planets. Now, you were supposedly have said this December the 20th, 2022. Do you have any recall on that one?
No, but I might have said it. So the only criteria now is it true? Okay.
All right. And let's go to number three. Number three, and by the way, thank you, George, from the Bronx. I'll get you on here after this here. This is number three here. You were to have said white supremacy is not the, wait a minute, I don't know if you said it or not, but anyway, he said number three, white supremacy is not the greatest force in the universe besides the Creator. That thinking has the Creator absent and the white man as God, not a God body model. Your lack of knowledge about astroarchaeology may hurt the logic. And you're supposed to have addressed that November the 15th, 2022.
Now, who said this? I did?
That last question is kind of confusing. I don't know if he said this or not. White supremacy, that doesn't sound like you. He said white supremacy is not the greatest force in the universe beside the Creator. He said that thinking has the Creator. Yeah, he must have said this. That thinking has the Creator absent, and the white man as God, not a God body model. Your lack of knowledge about astral archaeology may hurt that logic. Yeah, I know you didn't say that. That was him. What say you concerning that?
Well, I could be incorrect if I said it. So
no, you didn't say that part there.
What I say, yeah. Well, what I say is, don't ever believe anything that Neely Fuller says. Check it for yourself and find out if it's true. Now, like I make statements like America has never existed except in the minds of people, that it's a concept, like the counter-racist code is a concept. That's what it says on the cover of the book. It's a concept. The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. America is a concept. Why? Because the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept is designed to produce justice. Justice has never been produced. And you can't produce it without eliminating the system of white supremacy. The system of white supremacy is still here. So getting rid of it is a concept. Any black person, any white person, any person who says, well, they know how to solve the race problem. Well, there's no evidence of that. Why? Because the race problem is still here.
It's still here. Okay.
See what I mean? You can always remind people of that because that is the truth. I mean, lots of people say, like one person told me many years ago, I think I recall it as such, Fuller, I got the solution to the race problem. It's just that nobody wants to listen to me. I say, well, then you don't have the solution.
You don't have the solution, yeah.
That's the logic. Yeah, if you had the solution, part of the solution to that problem is you get people to listen to you. If that's what's required, if you don't know how to get people to listen to you, you don't have the solution. Period.
Okay.
And that's the evidence. That's not Neely Fuller making a judgment.
Okay.
The evidence doesn't show that you got the solution.
Okay.
You know, how can I have the problem and you got the solution? See, the solution is, well, I don't have the problem.
All righty. Okay, Mr. Fuller, we're going to speed it up just a little bit because we got some callers on the line. Let's go to George from the Bronx. George, let me get you in here. What is your question for Mr. Fuller, George?
Hi, Mr. Bobby. Hi, Mr. Fuller. I have a BGQ as well as a question.
Okay, you got to make it quick because we're running out of time. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is my BGQ. This is the Tuesday before Election Day. I don't think there will be an episode. Well, Tuesday before Election Day. I want to say that my personal endorsement will be for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. I believe that Donald Trump, although he has many questionable things to where you can say he's a white supremacist, I believe that he'll be the better person to pick in terms of less confusion for black people and, you know, not being as good for the maintenance of the system. Although he has good policies and everything, I feel like he's a more obvious, you know, he's a white man. He's a more obvious, white supremacist. And I think with Kamala Harris, I think that it's one of the confusions that the white supremacists use in using a black female, you know, in a high place when the white supremacists are the puppets, behind her. I believe that she's an empty suit. I don't think that she's too very, very articulate or smart. That's my quick BGQ. And then I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller, why are the white supremacists so hell-bent on, using black females in many political positions when we've seen by now that they can't do much, and like why is that the only thing that is that the only measure of confusion that they have for politics? It seems like black politics as it relates to us is only black
let's
females.
give Mr. Fuller a chance to answer your question there. Mr. Fuller?
I'll just say what the code says. Anything that the white supremacists have anything to do with is for the purpose of making the system of white supremacy more powerful than it is already. Any move that they make, they don't make moves of any kind unless it's going to give strength to the system of white supremacy. That's their intention all the time. As long as they are white supremacists.
Okay. All righty. All right. Thank you, George from the Bronx. Okay, let me see if I can get the lawyer on the line here. Wait a minute. Let me see here. Yeah, okay. Okay, Nicolette, if I can get you in, Nicolette, because this. Okay, Nicolette.
Hello?
I think I got you on here. Okay, go ahead, Nicolette.
Okay, hello. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so I came in. Excuse me, I was at work. Excuse me. Again, we are not in code. I have a BGQ, as y'all call them. I think.
Go ahead.
My papa told me. It's just a summarization of the show today to me. My papa told me when you ask a question, as your hair is electric, it is rising on them as well as turning rosy cheeks, like Santa Claus trying to grandfather Claus in another matter. And another matter I wanted to address was when he said about the Amish. In my opinion, as Oprah opened up that door, they want their word to stay. So anybody that have a slogan, somebody's going to gravitate to that. As Neely Fuller is teaching us about codes, as well as when I was in school, we had the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer in the morning. In my opinion, it taught us that it was no color in school, that we all was there to get an education and try to learn equally. And then lastly, I wanted to say, sorry, I got my paper, multitasking, appreciate y'all patience. And I wanted to say also that when we have achieved our excellence in our lives as colored people, poor people, we're not being pillars anymore. We try so hard to identify with our own community and look to someone else to give us a solution. With the codes and the work that Neely Fuller, amongst other people, have done, is teaching us how to be in code so that we can be our own writers of our own destiny. For an example, Charles Manson's follower just got released, yet we still allow injustice in our courtrooms when it comes to minorities when cases should not even be there. And with that, I pass. Thank you for this opportunity today.
All righty. Let's go to Delbert from Texas. Delbert, you're on. Let's see, Delbert, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
No comment, Mr. Bobby. Good morning.
Oh, okay. He had you down there. Yeah. Okay, no comment. Okay, that's fine. Okay, wait a minute. I'm just getting you down in here. Okay, we had George from the Bronx and see Delvin, Tampa again. Let me see here. Delvin, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just real quick comment. Basically, when I came across Mr. Neely Fuller's book the first time, the 1984 book, I was at University of Florida in the Smathers Library, and I was browsing through the library myself. And when you talked about if you put something in a book, you keep it away from black people. So I came across the book, and I said, why would I read a workbook, textbook when I'm already in school? That's just one more thing to worry about and work on. And then it took me 20 years later to read the ISIS paper by Frances Cress Wilson and read the foreword, and she mentioned Neely Fuller in there, and that's what got me back on the book. So basically, it's true, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but it is true. If you want to keep something from a black person, keep it in the book. That's all I want to say.
Okay. All right, Delvin, thank you. AP, your name keeps coming up again. Did you have another question or comment, AP?
No, I think that the question that I wanted to ask, I put my paper away now, was to ask the question, Mr. Fuller, did he remember or did he hear the comment recently made by Donald Trump making a disparaging remark about the country, first of all, and directed it toward Puerto Rico? And I asked that question, and it brought me back to a program that he had January 17th. I put it in my archives because it was very telling of how white supremacists, especially and in the area of religion, use Jesus, and they always are very good at using it to have a political gain or a power gain for themselves, and they're very deceptive in what the word is actually meaning. This is the reason why I suggest to people to listen to, and using Neely Fuller's term, the term eclectic pluralist, in looking at all the religions. And the most dominant ones that I know of is Islam is actually more popular or more practiced than Christianity and Judaism.
Okay.
And that's why I listen to the Nation of Islam, Farrakhan, and I am also gravitating to very, very closely, more strongly now, Geno Jennings. And that was my VGQ or my statement about that. I'll let others finish on the line.
Okay, thank you there, AP. Mr. Fuller, Black Tony wants to know, do you believe in Jesus or subscribe to that?
Believe in Jesus how? This question has been asked before.
Yeah.
And on this program. And that was my response. The question is, do I believe in Jesus how? Do I believe in Jesus, rather? That was the question. And this question has been asked before, and I'm answering according to the code and according to my religion, what I'm supposed to do when I'm asked that question. I'm supposed to answer with a question, and that is how, because I have to have clarity there. Do I believe in Jesus how? Believe in Jesus how? You know, that's my question. I have to understand what the question is. Do I believe in Jesus? But my question is, you know, I don't know how to answer that except to answer that with a question, and then I can answer the question if I'm being understood. Do I believe in Jesus how? I want to know how. If I'm going to believe in Jesus, I want to know how. How do I go about showing that I believe in Jesus? Or do I believe in Jesus how? That's the only, I have to answer that by trying to get clarification on the question, because I don't have clarification. And the clarification is H-O-W. That's what I'm seeking. I have to know how. See, if a person says, Neely Fuller, do you believe in Jesus? That's what I'm hearing. But I have to answer by giving an answer that calls for clarification. And that is, the question is, how, do I believe in Jesus how? Okay. Can it tell me, now if that person tells me, do I, you know, what they mean by, do I believe in Jesus? You know, I have to know how. What?
Okay.
What do I do? Do I stand up? Do I start standing on my head? Do I start dancing?
Okay.
You know, I have to have clarification.
Okay, you need to know how. So let's put it this way: do you believe in Neely Fuller and in the work that Neely Fuller is doing? Hello?
Well, the question is asked of me. It was, Mr. Bobby.
Since you went here as an example.
Yes, but I'm saying if the person can tell me how. See, if I'm going to believe in Jesus, there's a mechanism for doing that.
Okay.
It's like a person. Let me give an illustration. Neely Fuller, do you believe in cars? Cars? C-A-R-S? Yeah, but do I believe in cars? How? And then the person can say, I'm giving an example now, do you believe in riding in cars? Now we're getting somewhere. But do I believe in Jesus? Do I believe in Jesus? How?
Oh, okay. Now,
do I believe in cars? Do I believe in pencils? Do I believe in pencils? How?
Okay, how? Okay, now the question has changed. Now, do you believe in Neely Fuller and the work that Neely Fuller is doing, and how? Okay. All righty.
Well, the question was, I see, according to my religion, that's the way I have to respond in order to avoid what? Confusion. When I give my answer. I want to give a specific answer. But a person that says, do you believe in Jesus? It's like asking me, do I believe in lamps? Do I believe in clocks? Do I believe in cars? Do I believe in the sun? Do I believe in the sun? How? Now, if a person asks me, do you believe that the sun gives off heat? I can answer that right quick. Yeah, I believe that. That thing up in there that they call the sun, I believe it gives off heat. I believe that. May not even be true. All this heat that I'm feeling might come from Jupiter. But I've been taught that it comes from the sun. And it seems like when the sun is out, it looks like, hey, that thing radiates heat. I believe that. But it might not be true. It might work out, really, in truth, that it seems that way. That heat really comes from the planet Jupiter, and it bounces off of the sun. And that's how people came to believe something that ain't true. See what I mean? See, that gets into a conversation. I don't know how to answer a question like that. Neely Fuller, do you believe in Jesus? Do I believe in Jesus? How? I have to have an explanation of what you're talking about.
Well, okay, guess what? The time has gotten short, so we're going to have to close it down, though. So thank you for all the callers that have called in, everybody that was listening. Don't forget to get the books at goingtoproducejustice.com. And forgive for me and for us for all the mistakes that we have made. Mr. Fuller, the final 34 seconds goes to you.
Confucius said, what? Life is simple. Men make it complicated. Mae West says what? About life. You only live once, but once is enough if you do it right.
All righty. With that, we'll see you next week. Everybody have a good week. Thank you.
Thank you.